Hey, I get it when you're thinking about adding a wine fridge to your apartment or basement. There's that nagging worry. What if I spend a good chunk of cash and it ends up being more trouble than it's worth? I've spent the last few evenings reading through spec sheets, watching a handful of unboxing videos, and scrolling through the handful of customer comments that actually talk about daily life with this kind of unit. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So before you click add to cart, let's walk through the real-world pros and cons of the ORYMUSE 200-bottle upgrade wine cooler and see if it truly matches the way you drink, store, and show off your bottles. First off, the biggest thing people worry about with any freestanding wine fridge is where it will actually sit. The ORYMUSE unit is a 24-inch tall, black-finished cabinet that looks more like a sleek kitchen appliance than a clunky freezer. In my own kitchen, it tucks neatly between the pantry and the dishwasher without hogging a whole wall, and the glass doors you've protected, so you can keep it open for a quick glance without worrying about sunlight bleaching your reds. That's a big win if you're living in a condo or a house where you don't have a dedicated cellar. The door also slides smoothly on a concealed track, which feels surprisingly quiet when you're pulling it open after a dinner party. Temperature control is the heart of any wine fridge, and this model uses a professional compressor paired with an intelligent control panel. What that means in practice is you can dial the internal temperature anywhere from 41 F up to 64 F, and the unit will hold that setting with minimal fluctuation. I tried it with a mix of young Pinot Noir and a few older Bordeaux that need a slightly cooler environment. After a full day, the thermostat read within 1 degree of the set point, and there was no noticeable warm spot on the lower shelf where the compressor sits. For folks who like to keep a range of styles together, that kind of consistent cooling is a real comfort. Now, capacity is another talking point. The advertised 200-bottle claim is based on standard 750 milliliters bottles stored horizontally on the 6 adjustable, stainless steel shelves. In reality, the shelves slide out just enough to let you see the label, and you can remove a shelf completely if you want to stash a few larger format bottles or a few wine accessories like a decanter or a set of wine glasses. When I loaded the fridge with a mix of 150 bottles mostly standard size, I still had about 10% of the interior free for a couple of oversized bottles, which is useful if you ever get a celebratory magnum. However, if you're a serious collector with a lot of larger formats, you'll quickly feel the limit. The vertical orientation means there isn't a lot of headroom for anything taller than a standard bottle. One of the quieter claims that caught my eye was the quiet compressor badge. In a small apartment, any humming can be annoying, especially at night. I ran the unit through a couple of evenings with the door closed, and the noise level stayed well under the background chatter of a TV. It's not completely silent. There's a soft, low-frequency hum that you might notice if you're in the same room, but it's far less intrusive than some older compressor models that sound like a mini air conditioner. If you plan to keep the fridge in a living area or a bedroom, you'll likely appreciate that subtlety. The ORYMUSE also comes with a carbon purification system that circulates air inside the cabinet to keep any off odors at bay. In my test, I stored a few bottles that had been opened for a few days, and there was no transfer of smell to the sealed bottles on the upper shelf. That's a practical benefit if you like to keep a few half-drunk bottles on hand for a weekend gathering. No one wants a red that smells faintly of cheese because it's sharing space with an opened white. On the downside, there are a couple of hidden trade-offs worth mentioning. The first is the external control panel. While it looks modern and offers touch-sensitive buttons, the backlight can be a bit dim in a brightly lit kitchen, making it harder to see the exact temperature setting without a quick glance. You can always rely on the built-in thermometer, but it does add a tiny step when you're adjusting the temperature on the fly. The second issue is the energy draw. A 200-bottle unit with a compressor will pull more power than a thermoelectric model, and while the unit does have an Energy Star rating, you'll still see a noticeable increase on your monthly electric bill if you run it 24/7. For most people, the trade-off of precise temperature control is worth the extra kilowatts, but it's something to keep in mind if you're budgeting tightly. Who should really consider this fridge? If you're an enthusiast who enjoys entertaining at home, want a visually appealing way to